Welcome, everybody, to the 7th edition of Convos on the Coast. I'm your host today, Jim Forlenza with FCAA, and we are joined excitedly by Chip Tatum, the Executive Vice President of FAA and a longtime friend of course, with us at FCAA and around the state. So, Chip, welcome. Thank you for making the trip up to Jacksonville.
I'm excited to be here. I'm honored and excited about the chat.
Great. Well, we're going to just talk all things associations and FAA and FCAA and who knows what else comes up here. So we appreciate you being here. Also want to mention that today's episode is being sponsored by Grace Hill, and we thank them for supporting us and supporting Convos on the Coast.
Yeah, thank you, Grace Hill.
So, Chip, you just finished Inspire. It was a great conference. We had a great time up there. What's the kind of feedback you're hearing?
So preliminarily, we've had a lot of positive feedback. The socials have been blowing up, which is always good to hear. And right now we're in that kind of active collection phase of hearing firsthand from people via survey responses and things like that about what their experience was. And I think, we tried a lot of new things, and that's always exciting and a little bit scary at the same time. Yeah. And I think for the most part, those new things worked. A lot of it just focused on the attendee experience, the supplier experience, and making sure that we are creating more opportunities for connection and engagement and learning. And I think that those things paid off, and we're excited about elevating that again in 2026.
Yeah, that's great. We're back in Orlando in 26.
We are. We're back in Orlando.
You got another great keynote lined up already, or?
Not yet. That is the work of the conference committee, but they are actively soliciting interest for keynotes, and actually our call for presentations in general is going out, I believe, this week.
Okay.
So we're looking for multifamily subject matter experts and paid presenters that are interested in being at the conference. And then in February, the conference committee will convene. They'll evaluate all the sessions that have been proposed. They'll look at last year's lineup, and then they'll kind of look at the market and the industry and where it's going, and determine what would be the best fit for the conference. But that's always an exciting time, and as staff, it's exciting to see the volunteer leaders really kind of sink their teeth into the content and the curriculum. I know that this year's committee feels like they set the bar really high.
They did,
but I think 2026 they'll be up to the task.
Yeah, I always remember those meetings too, when you're doing that, you're evaluating all the different sessions, and something's on top, and then something you're moving around at constant time, all the time, and volunteers and everybody's kind of involved on that committee. The staff, they're going back and forth about, oh, we like this one, no, we like this one. So there's great conversation that generally comes out of that kind of stuff, which I think leads to a quality program.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I totally agree. And the feedback you get in that room is helpful for you as staff in general, because maybe something doesn't make it into the content for the conference, but you do a lot of things throughout the year. And so I think in our role, absorbing feedback wherever you hear it is really important, and that's really it's a treasure trove in that meeting.
That's right. That's for sure. Well, let's get the plug in. What are the dates for 26?
The dates it's mid-October, 14th through the 17th.
All right.
At the Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. So we're excited to be back at Disney. We actually have more space next year, so we'll be able to do some cool new things. It's going to be fun. Okay. So I can't wait to see how it all shakes out.
Well, we're looking forward to being there again and representing the First Coast here. So
you guys had a strong showing, so we appreciate that. Yeah, all of our affiliates showed up in force, and it's good to have that partnership.
Yeah. How's 25 shaping up, would you say, for FAA in general, and then kind of just looking at it from a multifamily industry? Has it kind of gone the way you thought it would go when coming into the year?
I would say that's kind of a mixed bag question, right? We knew that going into 2024, we started seeing some signs that the industry was, experiencing a little bit more headwind than they had coming out of the pandemic, and obviously just the sugar rush of 2021 through really 2023. We had this proliferation of inventory coming into the market and throughout the state. Record levels of inventory in response to the population and demographic changes. And while I know the question was more tuned into the association, as goes our members' experiences, how it shapes how we are able to function and what we need to do as an association. So I think, we had to adapt in a lot of ways. I think specifically looking at, we do a property management executive forum. and that's focused on folks that have, portfolios and the things that are in kind of the opportunities, the challenges, concerns, and things like that. And we had to adjust the content, to kind of shape where the market was and where the regulatory environment was at that point. So I think, in a lot of ways positive. We were able to learn, we were able to adapt. I mean, most of our programs were very successful, but we had to be responsive and had to be kind of realistic about where our members were at that point. Session was definitely a little bit more interesting than we had anticipated that it would be. Thankfully, not as a result of our program, but just kind of the political dynamics and things like that. But one of the things that we're good at as an association and our affiliates are good at is being responsive and not reactive. So I think, because of that and because we prepare for these eventualities, we've learned a lot and we've been successful, and I think we're better equipped for 2026.
It's funny you said that. I was sitting here thinking of a question when you said something earlier, and I'm going to ask you about as an association leader, right? So how do you balance the kind of that, where do you take, when you take the lead versus when am I reactive, when am I responding to what our members are telling us, right? So that's a tricky balance sometimes, right? Trying to get that right. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think, it's sound more mystical than it really is, but I think our job, especially as association staff, is reading the tea leaves. And I think that, again, that's absorbing the feedback that you're hearing. It's a lot of times, the questions that you're getting from your members about, hey, what can you tell us about XYZ regulation, or what are my, peers saying about talent recruitment, talent development, whatever you name it. Listening to that, it kind of spurs us to engage with our leadership and say, hey, is this an issue that we should be addressing? Do we need to have a blog, or do we need to write an article about it? Is there a class that we could, launch or support our affiliates in some way on that front? So I do think that, sometimes because our members have a tendency to understandably get wrapped up in their day-to-day jobs, we can engage them and say, hey, this sounds like it's not something that's isolated to you or your company or maybe even your market. Maybe we could host a conversation and we can kind of, crowdsource, what are some options, what are some strategies to address these things that are popping up. And I think that is a staff role. I'd say, hey, we're hearing a lot about XYZ. What do you guys think about, hosting a webinar or a conversation or a meeting or whatever? Same with the affiliates.
When's the right time? How do you handle it right now? When's that right time where you kind of feel like, hey, this is something the staff can take on, or at this time we create a working group or a task force or something like that to address this issue? How do you kind of look at that?
Every organization is different on that front in terms of how engaged their volunteer leaders want to be on that front. I think at a minimum, what our role is to kind of evaluating broadly what their potential options are, doing that initial reconnaissance work, like, okay, if there's going to be a budgetary consideration, like what are the options, what does it cost, what's the potential ROI, either on investment or on engagement, and going to them with options. Where I think sometimes we could go wrong is saying this is the only option. And I think that as the volunteer leaders, they want to be provided with a kind of a menu of choices and different options and the pros and the cons with each of those. And I think that it's our job to put those together. And sometimes we miss. I mean, I think we hit more than we miss on that front.
Sure do.
But that's our job, I think, is to present them with what strategies could be deployed. They're volunteer leaders. They're not getting paid to do that job. We are getting paid to do that job. Right. So it's on us to do that behind the scenes infrastructure work and reconnaissance work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure. What kind of challenge? Like we'll ask you. You were talking about reading tea leaves earlier, so I'll ask you to put your Kreskin hat on for the older viewers or listeners who know who Kreskin is. But and looking ahead to 26 and beyond, 27, just kind of short term here. What kind of challenges and opportunities do you see in the multifamily industry?
I mean, there's kind of the perennial challenges, right? That I think are changing, but like talent recruitment. For many years, like we heard about, basically all the talent was already pretty much in the industry because everybody wanted to hire with the experience. And so they're trying to recruit from one another instead of, from these fresh pools of talent like high schools, colleges, things like that, the trades. I feel like those winds are changing now, and there's a lot more interest in being able to train people up, and affiliates like FCAA are doing a lot of work on that front in terms of engaging people early and promoting multifamily as a career. And I think that that's really important work. I think the other challenge that we hear a lot about on the talent side is that, again, coming off, I don't want to say easy years, but where business was basically walking through the door, and now it's a lot more work to go out and get it. And people that maybe started during that sugar rush and are now in a market that's considerably different, where there's a lot more competition, there's a lot more inventory. They've had to relearn that sales process, the leasing process, and customer service in general. So what we hear about a lot, and is a return to the basics, like the customer service elements, the engagement, making sure that the fundamentals are sound. And so we're looking at what are ways that the association can respond on that front, and I think that there's a lot. Obviously, we have the advantage in our role of this macro level perspective of the industry, right? We don't just work with one company. We work with operators that might have 2 or 3 communities in their portfolio, and we work with operators that have almost 1 million units in their portfolio nationwide. So we're able to kind of absorb and listen to what they're doing to address these things, and then again, kind of crowdsource that, get people together and talk about ways that, that we can all kind of work together to address some of these challenges that everybody is experiencing. That's right. And I think that it's been really encouraging to kind of see the industry go in that direction, where where it might have been more hyper competitive in the past, where things that are kind of just common challenges, common concerns, they're willing to work together and address those things in a way that kind of lifts the entire industry in those markets. So I think we're uniquely positioned as associations to be able to provide that forum and do that. And so it's a unique challenge. There's a lot of others. I think the evolving regulatory environment, at the federal level, without going too deep into any of the partisan side of it, the regulations have been rapidly changing. The guidance along those regulations has been changing. Some of these are very positive for the industry, but a lot of it is also scary, because maybe they've gotten used to the regulation, even if they didn't like it. For CARES Act notice, for example, the 30-day notice is one that we hear a lot about. Well, there's been recent changes, with Fannie and Freddie and their potential enforcement of that. And there's a lot of concern about, well, what does that mean? Does that mean we don't have to do it anymore? Does it mean we still have to do it, but there are changes coming? So there's just we're, again, uniquely positioned to kind of help with, them evaluating what their strategies should be. Obviously, we can't and don't want to take the place of legal counsel or their internal corporate, but they can see kind of how other operators are responding and things like that. And we're hopefully a trusted resource on that front.
Yeah. I believe you, and we are.
Yeah, I'd like to think so.
I like
At
to think
we try.
That's right. What you and I've kind of talked on the side before too. I know some of your goals for next year are focused on the maintenance professionals, right? You felt that was something that FAA wanted to step up more and get involved in that. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, everybody, if you've been in the industry for any amount of time, you know how fundamentally important maintenance professionals are to not just, maintaining the asset, but to customer service and everything in between. And, they're literally the boots on the ground. They're the ones making sure that, your residents are happy, that things that they, are able to maintain your equipment and all these other things. And they've also, I would say this has shifted a lot, but in the past, there hasn't been as much energy concentrated on that demographic of the industry in terms, even from the association perspective, we could have done a much better job of engaging that segment of the industry. And I think, as you mentioned, FAA's board just recently adopted a new strategic plan. And I think that engaging maintenance professionals and providing opportunities for their professional development and for recruitment and things like that is going to be a fundamental piece of what we're doing. And I think that's going to be largely in partnership with our local affiliates, because, as a statewide association, we can't be in 9 different, affiliate markets at once. But perhaps we could provide resources, we could provide some infrastructure, tools, best practices, and have those things deployed by the local affiliate in their markets, not necessarily telling them what to do, but supporting their efforts. I know that FCAA's got some pretty cool plans for. I won't spoil that for y'all.
It's
or
all
for your
public
listeners.
now. It's all public
okay,
now.
Gotcha. In 2026, we're working actually on a pilot program with the Bay Area Apartment Association next year called Maintenance Labs, where we're going to provide an opportunity for them to engage with some emerging technologies and just some kind of constant challenges, some regulatory changes like the HAVAC refrigerant changes, things like that, safety, and incorporating that throughout. And we're actually working with a maintenance advisory council to shape that curriculum. But the idea is that this is going to be a hands-on opportunity. It's not replacing a CPO program. It's not replacing EPA or things like that. It's exposing them to kind of some new technologies, new opportunities, new maybe even tools and ways to better manage this thing. Some of it, again, is back to basics. We think there would be some like kind of soft skills training, finishing training and stuff like that. But we're excited to see if that model can work. And if it is, then the idea is that we'll have this rubric that other affiliates can utilize and that will kind of move across the state on an annual basis and do things like that. So I really see FAA's primary role as in bolstering what the affiliates are doing on that front.
Yeah. And we'll shameless plug what Chip was referring to was, of course, FCA's annual trade show, which is now FCMX, the First Coast Multifamily Experience. And one of the highlights of the event next year will be our Maintenance Island. And we, like-minded like Chip, are having a focus on the maintenance professionals. And the Maintenance Island we'll have all kinds of details when we talk about that later, but lots of fun stuff in there, hands-on demos, soft skills, things like that, competitions, lots of things that, will to engage the maintenance professionals, have them have a completely different experience at the event. And actually Maintenance Island is being sponsored by FAA, which we appreciate, Chip. So thank you for that. But obviously, as a statewide organization and the affiliates that are part of it, we all believe that the maintenance folks, and our members, of course, are extremely important to the successful operations that we have. And so we want to try and not to only highlight them, but keep them engaged and have them be an important part of what we're doing. So
it's so important.
Yeah. So you're listening to Convos on the Coast. We're with Chip Tatum, Executive Vice President with FAA, and this episode is being sponsored by Grace Hill. Chip, I want to just kind of maybe let's talk a little bit about that affiliate and state relationship. Of course, here in Florida, folks are familiar with the fact that we have an FAA, our kind of mother organization, and then we have the affiliates that all make up FAA. Not all states operate like that, though, correct?
Correct.
So we have what's kind of the difference? Do you feel that's an advantage, a disadvantage? How do you kind of see that relationship?
Well, I like to think in Florida, we're always learning, we're always figuring things out, but I think it's a huge advantage for us. And I think the reason it has been advantageous is that FAA has for years focused on affiliate support and growth and really being a partner instead of competition on a lot of those fronts. And so, I started at the local affiliate level, so I have a big place in my heart for our local affiliates and the work that they're doing. Again, as we kind of alluded to earlier, that's the closest to our members. Like most people that are going to engage with the association network in some way are going to start with their local affiliate, especially the on-site teams and things like that. And so they're uniquely positioned to be able to engage at that level, to provide those opportunities for professional development. And that's something that FAA can't replicate, something that we can support. But trying to do that, across a large state, like there are some states where the entire state is the affiliate. And I'm sure that presents unique challenges, probably opportunities as well. But I think for us, the model works really well. We learn from the affiliates what things are more, global or statewide in nature, and then we're able to, develop programs and things like that to address that through the annual conference or through, forums and things like that we can conduct virtually. And then obviously we have the National Apartment Association. Everybody rolls up to that. They have the credentials and support at that level. But I think, when we all kind of know where our lanes are, like, we can support your local government affairs work, and we're happy to do that with John Michael,
who does a great job.
We appreciate that. He loves it, and you could tell, like, he's really into it. But then, the affiliates support us when we're engaging at the state level on state policy and things like that. So we think when we remember like what our support lane is, these things can work really, really well, and everybody has a high level of trust. And I think because of that, we have a pretty good dynamic in Florida on that front. It isn't anything that I'd want to change.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great org chart, if you will, the way it's kind of set up, and they're great leaders across the state. I mean, as you know, I've only been here over a year. I came down from the DC area, and I can tell you just from all the affiliates, the way they reached out from the first day I got down here, and to me that was something unique. I'm not sure if you're in a state where it's just one association, you're going to get that kind of not an olive branch, but just an arm extended to say, hey, where can we help you? Welcome to be here. So they've all been fantastic. I don't want to mention names because I might forget somebody, and I don't want to feel left out. But all the affiliates have been fantastic. I think to bounce ideas off of. It's easy to pick up the phone and call up a Russ or a Monica or a Robert or Francesca or something like that, and just kind of say, hey, how are you guys doing this, or how are you doing that, and vice versa, right? They're kind of coming at us with some stuff as well. So it's just a great networking opportunity, I think, for all of us, and I do think it starts at the top, though. I mean, I think the way FAA treats the affiliates, having been involved in the association world in other industries and stuff like that. So I think the way I love that kind of, for lack of a better term, a parent-child relationship that we have, because it doesn't feel like a parent-child relationship, right? It really is a back and forth that goes out there, and just going back to the maintenance issues, the kind of the stuff that you and I have talked about in the past about hey, where can we help you, and this is what I need, and you're asking me questions on trade show stuff and things like that. So it's a great back and forth, that not only from the affiliates, but from FAA to the affiliates as well. So I think it's a great setup, and certainly applaud your leadership in making that all work in a great way.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all the people on the team and all the folks around us that really lift us up. I will just add to that I think that we are very blessed in Florida to have a really deep bench in terms of like the affiliate teams, and then our volunteer leaders and all the folks that are waiting in the wings to move into those roles. I think it's really, we haven't always had the emerging leader piece of it, and I think we're starting to really see that take root. And I think it's hugely important for us, because obviously we have these folks that have gotten us where we're at, and FAA is what it is today, FCAA is what it is today, because of the folks that have really carried the water on that front. But at some point, they're going to want to move on to other things, be that retirement or whatever. And we need to make sure, or
just spend more time on their real job, right?
How dare they? But we need those folks that are ready to move into those seats and assume those positions. And I think, we're starting to do that. Leadership Lyceum is a great conduit for that. And I think kind of for us, the litmus test to see is that effort working is what response we get in the call for interest for like our volunteer positions, and then for the Lyceum. And this year we had another really strong response. It keeps building on that. And I'm hearing that, at least anecdotally, from the affiliates as well. So I think, we have a good thing going now, but the affiliates and FAA are hopefully doing the right things to continue that pipeline and keep it growing, because you can't just get comfortable with where you're at.
Yeah, and we've talked about that a lot here at FCA, just amongst our board, right? And we kind of modified our board terms a little bit to allow. We are at a point where we're starting to have more folks that want to get involved in the association, be in the leadership side of it, more getting involved in the Lyceum, more reaching out to us and applying for board and committee seats and things like that. So it's great to see. It's great to have that interest out there, and I think it's just great to have all the new voices, the different voices, like you said. We got to pay homage to those folks that kind of hung in there, especially when things weren't great for a while, right? And so they kind of not only built the ship, but kept it afloat for a while, and have allowed others now to kind of step into it. So. It's been a really, really good network, I think, in the way that's set up. What how does an FCAA continue to work with an FAA? Where do we improve as an association? Not so much just in our relationship with FAA, but again, as you said, as a leader of an affiliate at one time, right? Where do you kind of see that continued growth, that continued relationship between the affiliate and an FAA? And then also, I want to ask the question from a different side, like from the affiliate and the community that it's representing.
Wow, it's a loaded question, right? I think what we rely on from the affiliates is to like really let us know like what is it that you need, what are you hearing, and I think that when we continue to get the response from our local affiliates about this is working well, these are challenges our members are experiencing, things like that, that's hugely helpful for us to be able to respond. And I think the most important thing that could be done is the affiliate to ask like what resources are available through the state association, like what could we be doing better to support you. And we really do, like the entire team, our leadership sees FAA's role as supporting the local affiliates, not necessarily the local affiliates supporting FAA. I think we kind of get that, just because of the dynamic that we experience. The affiliates do support us a lot. But it also makes our leadership want to support the affiliates even more. So I think, like for example, this year or in 2026, our operating budget, which is hopefully going to be approved soon, includes more resources, financial resources to support local affiliates when they're doing cool, new, innovative things to address these kind of common concerns or common needs like maintenance professional development, recruitment, things like that. And I think that's another way that FAA can get involved on that. I think from the local affiliate perspective, in terms of, how do you make sure you're addressing the needs, is you have to provide a conduit to continuously get feedback from your members and not just from the same people. Yeah. Like, we call them our true believers internally. Like they're the folks that, a lot of times are your board of directors, are the folks that are committee leaders that are already engaged in some way. And it's very important to hear from them about, where we're doing well, where we could do better. But it's almost more important, not discounting their opinions.
I know what you're saying.
To hear about from the people you're not hearing from.
That's right.
Because there's this universe, like, we look at, how many people engage with us in an FCA programs and events, and you might have 300 people, but then you look at your total universe, and that's potentially thousands of people. What do you do to engage them? And I think the other piece of it is to be mindful of not everybody wants the same thing out of the affiliate, right? So maybe a group of folks are really interested in your awards program, and maybe there's a group that's not what drives them, but they are really interested in maintenance program, or they're really interested in your trade show or things like that. And so I honestly think the local affiliate's job is harder than our job, because you have to be more things to more people than we do at the state level. As the funnel goes up, it gets easier to kind of manage that. Not easy necessarily, but when you have 5 or 6 counties that are part of your association, I think we had mentioned earlier, like, you want to do that outreach, you want to go out to these different markets. I think it's important to make sure that you don't just concentrate where the bulk of the membership is. You have to serve people where they're at. You get to meet them where they're at. Yeah. And I think it's hard to do, but it's worth it. Yeah. The work is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And that's, one of the things I know the team here will tell you, we talk about all the time is, that's great that you're hearing from the people, but they're kind of the same people a lot. But what's happening with these folks that we aren't hearing from, right? And so I know we've been trying to, mix up our events and programs and things like that, so that we're addressing those missing pockets that we might not normally see, right? Like even something as simple as a golf tournament, right? It's kind of that same group that all is in the golf tournament. Okay, well, what if we did something different that's attracting folks that normally wouldn't be golfers, or something along those lines, right? So we are, I think we're trying to do a lot of that kind of stuff too. I don't know if some of it's fun. It's not necessarily hard sometimes, but it's fun to kind of try things and see what works. And like you and I were talking earlier too, we're heading down with an event down to St. Augustine, because we don't really see a lot of the St. Augustine folks coming up into a lot of the activities that we have in Jacksonville. So that if they're not going to come see us, then let's go take the events and the programs to them. And we've gotten an overwhelming response from the St. Augustine family here that's going to come out and support that event. So I do think it's important that you're able to shift and kind of see what's out there and move on the fly and find different ways to get your membership more involved. I know we got a couple minutes left, and I know we also have Impact coming up after the holidays. So we're in February.
We are early February again. Yep.
How's that looking?
I think we're going to have some exciting things. Fraud is on the radar screen, addressing fraud. I think that's going to be a big one. Obviously, Live Local is going to continue to be a focus in trying to fix some of those things that have been problematic, like the opt-out. And I think it's going to be a challenging session in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's an election year, but we're well equipped to deal with it. We're already having those meetings at the highest level with senior leadership within the House and the Senate, and on the executive branch to kind of socialize some of the policy priorities that we have. Actually, Amanda's heading to Tallahassee this week to have some of those meetings. So that's always a really good opportunity. And by the time that our members get there, we've at least got an idea of what kind of questions they're going to get and those types of things. And I mean, I appreciate you kind of tossing up that softball for us because the participation in Impact, in having that real world experience from our members and being able to tell the stories about how fraud is impacting them or how these other things are impacting them, it's so beneficial. Because lawmakers don't do what you do every day. Some of them actually are property owners, but hearing firsthand the stories about how this is impacting not just the industry, but their constituents, because there are people that are potentially not getting housing because there are these other ne'er-do-wells, I guess you could say, to use another old-timey expression. But I think having that presence in Tallahassee is always advantageous, and our members represent so well up there that. I don't think our lobbyist has said for a long time, not every one of their clients they would want to have a strong group go to Tallahassee to represent for, but they welcome FAA's members and our local affiliates because they always present so well. They're well informed. They are respectful. They operate well, and it's impactful.
Yeah. Well, you prep us well. I know that. Amanda and John Michael and the team there. They I know from my experience last year, it's a lot of great prep work, not just before getting to Tallahassee, right? But even before Tallahassee, a lot of the work that goes into that. And then when we're up there, you guys do some great programs up there too. Your point on the personal stories, I don't think you can overstate that. I mean, it's a big deal. Having been here in Tallahassee one time, I've been on Capitol Hill a couple of different times in a previous lifetime and was able to do it once here representing FCAA. But you're right. When you can get in front of some of those folks and sit down and some of the representatives and really tell, hey, this is how it's impacting me or this is how it's impacting my community and I'm living it on a day-to-day basis, I think it resonates more than here's a letter that 10 people have signed or 20 people have signed or whatever. So
100%.
Those are important things to bring to the table. So, all right, Chip, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I appreciate being invited to participate, and it's exciting. You guys are just doing so many cool, innovative things, and I think to the point of the conversation, that's one of the things that we as associations have to do is to continue to iterate and evolve, and listen to our members, respond, and take advantage of those opportunities, address the challenges. I think it's exciting. If you either thrive on change or you get run over by it.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, we love it here, right? All right. Well, thanks again, Chip. Appreciate having you here. We're going to have you come back in 26 at some point, and we'll catch up again. But thanks for everything. Enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, and we'll look forward to hearing this one and getting you back here down the road some point. So
it was fun. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you, and we want to thank Grace Hill for sponsoring this episode of Convos on the Coast. And stay tuned for your Maintenance Minute.
Yep. Thank you, Grace Hill.
Operators face high turnover, compliance risk, and rising expectations, but struggle to get employees competent in their roles quickly while juggling too many disconnected systems. Grace Hill's newest platform, Performance HQ, unifies training, policies, surveys, reputation, mystery shopping, and analytics into one platform, helping teams develop people faster, act on insights, and directly improve property performance. Reach out today to find out more about the cycle of improvement to see how you can elevate your standards in 2026.
Welcome to the Maintenance Minute. Well, we almost have another year behind us, and I just want to take this minute to thank each and every one of you for all you do. Our on-site teams are the ones who keep the merry-go-round moving and make our company successful. We don't hear it often enough, so again, thank you, and we appreciate you. As leaders, we always need to make sure our teams feel that love. The one thing I wanted to share is something I have done over the years. I would meet with my team and talk about year-end budget numbers. We will talk about what we did well and where we can improve for the upcoming year. What goals do we want to set for the property to accomplish in the next year? Then I would have my team write down 3 individual goals, 2 business, and 1 personal. And I would keep them, and then at the end of the next year, I would give them back and see if they had achieved the goals that they had set. Always challenge your teams, but remember to have fun doing it. I want to wish you all a safe and wonderful holiday with your family and friends. And again, thank you for listening to Convos on the Coast.